The Galactic Council Chamber floated in the void between stars, a monument to power that had endured for 12,000 cycles. Its crystalline walls reflected the light of distant galaxies, and within those walls the fate of civilizations was decided with the stroke of a talon or the pulse of a thought pattern. Ambassador Kieran Moss straightened his jacket as the human delegation's shuttle docked. Beside him, Dr. Nalani Reeves clutched her data tablet like a shield, while Security Chief Victor Antonov simply stared ahead with the expression of a man who'd seen too much to be impressed by architectural grandeur. "Remember," Kieran said softly, "we're here to observe. Nothing more." "Observe ourselves getting carved up like a holiday roast," Victor muttered. The airlock hissed open, revealing the grand atrium. Species from across the galaxy mingled in clusters, their conversations creating a symphony of clicks, whistles, and telepathic hums. A Vexorian trade prince, his 6 arms adorned with wealth chains, sneered as the humans passed. A Thelmoran warrior poet deliberately turned all 3 of her eyes away. They knew. Everyone knew. Humanity was here to answer for the Kepler incident. A protocol drone, its chrome surface reflecting fractured images of the room, approached with mechanical precision. "Ambassador Moss. The Council will see you now. Proceed to Chamber Actual." The walk felt longer than it was. Each step echoed against floors that had witnessed the dissolution of empires, the annexation of worlds, the extinguishment of species who'd failed to justify their existence to the powers that ruled the stars. The Chamber Actual was a sphere. Its walls displayed the cosmos itself, real-time feeds from 1 trillion observation posts scattered across the galactic arm. At the center, suspended in gravitational equilibrium, sat the 5 thrones of the Council. High Chancellor Drexith of the Vexorian sovereignty occupied the foremost throne, his primary hand steepled in what passed for contemplation among his kind. To his right sat War Master Kellen of the Thelmoran ascendancy, her battle armor humming with barely contained energy. Supreme Merchant Xiphus of the Quellan trade hegemony's bioluminescent skin pulsed with calculating rhythms. Scholar Prophet Ixathon of the Cerulean consciousness floated in meditative stasis, countless neural tendrils extending into the datasphere. And finally, Admiral Architect Neth of the Cronovian Star Federation, whose cybernetic enhancements made it unclear where flesh ended and machine began. 5 species. 5 empires. 5 civilizations that had conquered, colonized, and controlled the known galaxy for millennia. And 3 humans who stood before them without an empire to their name. Ambassador Kieran Moss of Earth, Drexith's voice resonated through translation matrices built into the chamber itself. "You stand accused of violating Treaty Statute 447, subsection 12, unauthorized military action within a designated neutral zone." Kieran stepped forward. The Kepler incident was a rescue operation. Civilian transport ship Morning Star was disabled by. The Council recognizes no distinction between military and civilian vessels from non-member species, War Master Kellen interrupted, her voice like grinding stone. "You deployed weapons. You damaged Thelmoran patrol craft. You extracted refugees from a system under our jurisdiction." "Refugees you were selling to Quellan labor colonies?" Nalani interjected, her voice sharp. The chamber fell silent. Speaking out of turn was a violation of protocol so severe that species had lost their council petitions for less. Supreme Merchant Xiphus's luminescence shifted to angry crimson. "The Quellan hegemony operates within all legal parameters. Our contracts with the Thelmoran. Your contracts violate your own stated principles about sentient rights," Nalani continued, pulling up holographic documents that flooded the space around her. "Treaty of Harmonious Commerce, Article 3. Universal Declaration of Sapient Dignity, Section 8. Your own words. Your own laws. Enough." Drexith's roar shook the chamber. "Dr. Reeves, you will be silent or you will be removed. Ambassador Moss, control your delegation." Kieran didn't move. Didn't speak. He simply watched as Nalani's documents continued to scroll, each one highlighting another discrepancy, another violation, another truth the Council had chosen to ignore. Scholar Prophet Ixathon's tendrils twitched. "Interesting. The human presents evidence of systemic contradiction within our legal framework." "There is no contradiction," Admiral Architect Neth stated flatly. "There is law and there is power to enforce law. Humanity possesses neither." "No," Kieran said quietly. "We don't have empires. We don't have armadas that blot out stars or trade networks that span sectors. We have something you've forgotten." "And what?" Drexith leaned forward. "Would that be?" Kieran smiled. It wasn't a pleasant expression. "We have receipts." The chamber's displays flickered, changed, transformed into something the council had never seen before in their hallowed chamber. Evidence. Raw, unfiltered, damning evidence. And this was only the beginning. The council chamber's displays erupted with data. Not the carefully curated reports typically presented in such proceedings, but raw footage, communication logs, financial transactions, and testimony from thousands of voices across hundreds of worlds. What is the meaning of this? Drexith rose from his throne, his 6 arms spreading in a gesture of authority that had cowed lesser species for centuries. Kieran nodded to Nalani, who touched her tablet. The displays focused on a single stellar system. The Kepler incident wasn't our first encounter with your justice system, Chancellor. It was simply the first time we decided to document our experience and compare it with your stated principles. Victor activated a holographic timeline that spiraled through the chamber. 3 years ago we started collecting data. Every transaction. Every treaty violation. Every time the Council's actions contradicted the Council's own laws. The first video began to play. A Quellan merchant vessel, its hull emblazoned with Supreme Merchant Xiphus's personal sigil, hovering over a refugee settlement. Not delivering aid. Extracting. The refugees were being loaded into cargo containers despite their pleas, their cries, their desperate attempts to resist. This was Hellan 4, Nalani stated. A non-aligned world suffering from environmental collapse. The Council promised humanitarian assistance. The Quellan hegemony arrived first and offered employment contracts. Those refugees are currently mining toxic minerals on Quellan Station 447 without protective equipment. The mortality rate is 93% within the first standard year. Xiphus's bioluminescence flickered erratically. Those contracts were voluntary. Verified by Thelmoran overseers. The display shifted. A Thelmoran officer, drunk on what appeared to be fermented xenon compounds, boasting to companions about how many marks he could authenticate in an hour. Don't even read them anymore, the officer laughed. Just stamp and collect the bonus. War Master Kellen's armor's hum rose to an angry whine. That officer was disciplined. Removed from duty. Promoted, Victor corrected. To supervisor. Where he trained 47 others in the same techniques. We have their graduation ceremony on record. Would you like to watch? Scholar Prophet Ixathon's tendrils retracted slightly. The humans have been conducting surveillance operations. This is itself a treaty violation. We've been watching public spaces and monitoring open communications, Kieran replied. Everything you're seeing was broadcast, transmitted, or conducted in areas with no expectation of privacy. We simply did what none of you thought to do, we paid attention. The display shifted again. This time, financial records. The complexity was staggering. Shell corporations laundered payments, accounts buried beneath accounts. The Treaty of Harmonious Commerce prohibits council members from profiting personally from interspecies trade, Nalani explained, her fingers dancing across her tablet as she highlighted connection after connection. And yet, High Chancellor Drexith owns, through 17 subsidiary entities, 42% of Quellan hegemony's employment contract processing facilities. The chamber fell into shocked silence. Furthermore, Nalani continued relentlessly, War Master Kellen receives direct payments from these same facilities for each Thelmoran inspection certificate issued. Admiral Architect Neth cybernetics are manufactured exclusively using materials mined by these contract workers, at a 98% discount from market rates. Lies, Drexith hissed. Fabrications designed to undermine council authority. Then let's verify, Kieran suggested. Right now. The council maintains a truth archive, immutable records backed up across 1,000 redundant systems to prevent tampering. Every financial transaction by council members is supposed to be recorded there, as per the transparency mandate of 10,847. Admiral Architect Neth's cybernetic word. The truth archive is sealed. Accessing it requires unanimous council approval. Or, Victor said, a grim smile crossing his face, the authorization of 3 non-council petitioner species formally requesting oversight review. We've been busy making friends. 3 holographic seals materialized in the chamber, the Telerii Confederation, the Morose Unity, and the Fention Collective. Each one a species that had been waiting, watching, hoping for a chance to challenge the council's absolute authority. This is highly irregular, Scholar Prophet Ixathon protested, though his tone suggested more fascination than outrage. It's also legal, Nalani confirmed. Treaty Statute 12, subsection 447, Ironically, the same statute you're using to prosecute us. It includes provisions for transparency oversight. The Truth Archive activated. Raw data began flooding into the chamber, bypassing the council's usual filtering systems. Financial records, communication logs, meeting transcripts that had been sealed for security purposes. And every piece of it confirmed what the humans had presented. Drexith's composure cracked. You have no right. No authority. You are not even a council species. No, Kieran agreed. We're not. But we are witnesses. And apparently, that's something your empires never bothered to consider important. The chamber's atmospheric processors struggled to manage the sudden surge of agitated biochemistry from 100 species watching the proceedings. What do you want? Xiphus demanded. Blackmail? Tribute? Your own colony worlds. Kieran's expression remained neutral. We want you to follow your own laws. The silence that followed Kieran's statement was broken by War Master Kellen's harsh laughter. It echoed through the chamber like the sound of breaking stone. Follow our own laws? She rose from her throne, her 3 eyes blazing with barely contained fury. You dare lecture the council on law? We who have maintained galactic peace for 12,000 cycles. Peace, Victor repeated, his tone dripping with skepticism. He gestured to the displays still showing evidence of trafficking, exploitation, and corruption. That's what you call this? Admiral Architect Neth's mechanical voice cut through the tension. The human delegation misunderstands the fundamental nature of governance. Laws are ideals, frameworks that guide behavior. But ideals must bend to reality. Reality, Neth continued, is that the galaxy contains trillions of beings across thousands of species. Perfect adherence to every statute is impossible. The Council provides stability, prevents war, maintains trade. These are the measures of successful governance. Scholar Prophet Ixathon's tendrils began weaving through the data streams. A philosophical question presents itself. The humans suggest that hypocrisy, the gap between stated principle and actual practice, undermines legitimate authority. Yet all civilizations throughout history have exhibited such gaps. Exactly, Drexith seized the argument. Humanity itself is hardly innocent. Shall we examine Earth's history? The wars, the genocides, the environmental destruction. Kieran nodded slowly. Please do. The council members exchanged glances. They'd expected defensiveness, deflection. Instead, the human ambassador was inviting scrutiny. Drexith's staff activated the chamber's historical database. Earth's past materialized in the viewing sphere. Industrial Revolution smokestacks, mushroom clouds, melting ice caps. Your species, Drexith declared, nearly destroyed your own homeworld through short-sighted greed and tribal violence. You speak of following laws? You barely developed international law before almost rendering it moot through nuclear annihilation. True, Kieran acknowledged. We nearly destroyed ourselves. Multiple times. And yet you dare judge us? Kellen demanded. No, Nalani interjected. We judge you by your own standards. Every violation we've documented is a violation of laws you created, principles you proclaimed, treaties you signed. We're not imposing human morality on you. We're holding up a mirror. Xiphus's luminescence shifted to calculating amber. A clever rhetorical strategy. But ultimately meaningless. The Council has already acknowledged that perfect adherence is impossible. What changes? What changes, Kieran said, is that everyone now knows. Every species in the chamber, every diplomat watching this broadcast across the galaxy, they all see the receipts. They see the truth. This broadcast, Drexith's voice dropped dangerously low, is supposed to be restricted to council members and delegations present. Was supposed to be, Victor corrected. Turns out we made more friends than we mentioned. The Telerii Confederation has some very talented communication specialists. The chamber erupted in chaos. Diplomats from dozens of species began shouting, chirping, telepathically broadcasting in overlapping waves of confusion and outrage. You've committed espionage. Kellen roared. Unauthorized broadcasting of council proceedings is a capital violation. Actually, Nalani pulled up another document. Treaty Statute 89 grants any accused party the right to public trial upon request. We made that request in our formal response to your summons. It was buried in subsection J, paragraph 14. Your protocol drone acknowledged and approved it. We have the confirmation codes. Drexith slammed his primary arms against his throne's armrests. Enough of these games. You want transparency? Fine. The galaxy will see how the Council deals with species that overreach. His secondary arms made a gesture. The chamber's security systems activated. Gravitational fields locked onto the human delegation, immobilizing them where they stood. The council finds Ambassador Kieran Moss, Dr. Nalani Reeves, and Security Chief Victor Antonoff guilty of espionage, unauthorized military action and subversion of council authority. The sentence is immediate detention pending transfer to a maximum security facility. Kieran struggled against the gravitational field but couldn't move. "You're making a mistake." "The only mistake," Drexith replied, "was allowing humanity to enter these chambers. You are a young species. Naive. You believe in fairness and justice as absolute concepts. But power is the only absolute in this galaxy. Power to enforce, power to punish, power to rule. We don't have that power," Kieran admitted. "You're right. We don't have vast fleets or ancient empires." "Then you have nothing," Kellen stated. "We have 30 billion humans," Victor said quietly, "who just watched you arrest their diplomatic delegation for the crime of telling the truth. And we have," Nalani added, meeting Drexith's eyes steadily, "approximately 400 species who've been waiting for someone to stand up to the council. Who've been documenting their own grievances. Who now have proof that the system can be challenged." Scholar Prophet Ixathon's tendrils suddenly retracted completely, a sign of deep alarm in Cerulean body language. "High Chancellor. The communication networks are experiencing unprecedented activity." "From where?" Neth demanded. "Everywhere," Ixathon replied. "Every world. Every station. Every colony. They're all watching. And they're all talking." The displays shifted, showing the explosion of galactic communication. Messages multiplying exponentially. Data flowing between worlds that rarely communicated. Species reaching across the void to share their own stories of council corruption, injustice, and hypocrisy. The humans hadn't just brought receipts to the council chamber. They'd taught the galaxy how to issue them. The council chamber's communication matrices overloaded within minutes. What started as a restricted diplomatic hearing had become the most watched event in galactic history, and the reaction was spreading faster than lightspeed travel. "Shut it down," Drexith commanded. "Sever all external communications." Admiral Architect Neth's cybernetic fingers flew across holographic controls. "Impossible. The broadcast is being mirrored across 17,000 relay stations. They're using civilian infrastructure. Shutting it down would disable all galactic communications." Still locked in gravitational stasis, Kieran managed a tight smile. "We told you we made friends. Turns out a lot of species are tired of being afraid." The displays continued their cascade of information. On Helon 4, the refugees the Quellan had employed were broadcasting their conditions. On Thelmoran border worlds, inspection officers were being confronted by citizens demanding audits. Across Quellan trade stations, workers were refusing to process new contracts until existing ones were reviewed. It wasn't a rebellion. Not yet. But it was something potentially more dangerous. A mass awakening. "This changes nothing," War Master Kellen declared, though her voice carried less certainty than before. "So the lesser species are upset. They lack the power to challenge council authority." "Do they?" Scholar Prophet Ixathon's tendrils emerged slowly, cautiously sampling the data streams. "Historically, empires have fallen not to stronger empires, but to the accumulated weight of their own contradictions made visible." "Philosophy," Kellen spat. "While the Cerulean contemplates metaphor, ideal in reality. 3 humans cannot overthrow the council." "You're right," Nalani said. 3 humans can't. But 3 humans can light a match." As if to punctuate her words, the display shifted to show something unexpected. Council species turning on each other. Vexorian trade guilds were filing formal complaints against Drexith's shadow corporations. Thelmoran warrior castes were demanding investigations into their leadership's financial dealings. Quellan merchant houses were discovering that Xiphus's monopolies had been crushing their own profits. "Internal dissent," Victor observed. "Nothing unifies people like realizing they've all been getting screwed by the same few individuals." Xiphus's bioluminescence flickered through rapid color changes. Confusion, anger, fear. "This is orchestrated. The humans must have spent years planning." 3 years, Kieran confirmed. 3 years of humans doing what humans do best. Talking to people. Listening to their stories. Finding common ground. Building networks based on mutual interest rather than fear. "We don't have empires," Nalani added. "We have something better, we have memes." "Memes?" Drexith's translator struggled with the word. Information that spreads because people want to spread it, she explained. Ideas that replicate because they resonate. You built your power on controlling information, on managed truth, on carefully curated knowledge. We showed everyone that there was another way. The gravitational fields suddenly deactivated. The humans stumbled but remained standing. Admiral Architect Neth had released them. Neth. Drexith turned on his fellow council member. What are you doing? Calculating, Neth replied, his mechanical voice inflectionless. Current trajectory suggests that maintaining their detention will accelerate systemic destabilization by 47%. Probability of maintaining council authority under current conditions, declining at 3% per hour. You're giving up? Kellen's hand moved toward her weapon. The Cronovian Star Federation is not willing to wage war against 400 species simultaneously, Neth interrupted. My analysis indicates that is where current trends lead. The humans have not created new grievances. They have simply made existing grievances visible and provided a framework for collective action. Scholar Prophet Ixathon floated forward from his throne. A fascinating development. The humans have weaponized transparency. In doing so, they have revealed that the Council's true power never lay in our fleets or our wealth, but in information asymmetry. Each species believed themselves alone in their dissatisfaction. And now they don't, Kieran finished. Now they see a galaxy full of species who all thought the Council was treating everyone else better. Turns out, you were screwing everyone equally. Drexith's 6 arms clenched and unclenched in rapid succession, a Vexorian expression of impotent rage. What do you want? Name your price. Territories? Technology? A seat on the Council itself? We already told you, Kieran said wearily. We want you to follow your own laws. All of them. Consistently. Transparently. Impossible, Xiphus protested. The complexity of galactic governance. Then simplify the laws, Nalani suggested. Or admit that they were never meant to be followed. Either way, the galaxy deserves honesty. Warmaster Kellen's armor powered down slightly. When she spoke, her voice carried a strange mixture of respect and resentment. You realize what you've done? You've destabilized the most enduring governmental structure in galactic history. The chaos that follows might be chaotic, Victor acknowledged, or it might be the first step toward something better. Something built on actual consent rather than imposed order. Idealism, Kellen scoffed. Maybe, Kieran agreed. But right now, across the galaxy, people are choosing it over your realism. The displays showed the proof. Messages flowing between worlds. Species forming new alliances. Long silent colonies finding their voice. The old order wasn't collapsing, not yet, but it was being questioned in ways it had never been questioned before. And questions, as humanity had just demonstrated, could be more powerful than fleets. The council chamber had become something unprecedented. A forum where council members argued not with the humans but with each other. You're all fools, Drexith snarled, his 6 arms gesturing frantically at the displays showing galactic unrest. We should have vaporized Earth the moment they developed faster than light travel. Now look what your mercy has wrought. My mercy? Admiral Architect Neth's cybernetic eye focused on the Vexorian. Your corporations profited handsomely from human trade. Last cycle alone, your subsidiaries extracted 30 million credits from Earth's asteroid mining operations. How did you? Drexith's mandibles clacked in agitation. I am a strategic analyst, Neth replied. Did you believe I wouldn't notice council members exploiting the same species we publicly restricted from council membership? The humans merely compiled what I already knew. Warmaster Kellen's 3 eyes narrowed. And you said nothing? I am not a moral arbiter. I calculate probabilities and resource allocation. From a purely strategic perspective, the council's hypocrisy was acceptable as long as it remained invisible. The humans made it visible. The calculus has changed. Scholar Prophet Ixathon's tendrils wove complex patterns in the air. This is the paradox the humans have exploited. Each of us knew of the other's transgressions. None of us spoke because we were all equally compromised. Mutually assured complicity. Exactly, Nalani said. The humans still stood in the center of the chamber, no longer detained but clearly not free to leave. You created a system where everyone had dirt on everyone else. It kept you unified but made you brittle. One crack and everything fractures. Supreme Merchant Xiphus's bioluminescence pulsed with desperate calculations. We can contain this. Offer reforms. Token gestures. The lesser species will be satisfied. Will they? Kieran pulled up a new display. Because right now, the Telerii Confederation is convening an emergency assembly. The Morose Unity is suspending all tribute payments to the Council. The Fenton Collective just declared their trade routes open to any species, Council approved or not. These aren't token gestures you can buy off. A new voice interrupted, transmitted from outside the chamber. High Chancellor Drexith, this is Castellan Vex of the Vexorian Home Fleet. We're receiving concerning reports. 17 of our tributary worlds have stopped responding to standard communications. Not destroyed, simply silent. Drexith's translator conveyed what must have been a string of profanity in the original Vexorian. Silent? All at once. They're using human tactics, Victor explained. Civil disobedience. Nonviolent resistance. They're not attacking you. They're just not cooperating. Your empire runs on a complex web of interconnected obligations. They're all choosing the same day to pretend those obligations don't exist. This is rebellion. Kellen roared. No, Scholar Prophet Ixathon corrected. This is something more insidious. Rebellion can be crushed. This is mass apathy. How do you wage war against populations that simply stop acknowledging your authority? The chamber fell silent as the implications sank in. You can't kill everyone, Nalani said quietly. And even if you could, empires need subjects. Workers. Taxpayers. Believers. The moment you have to enforce every single transaction at gunpoint, you're not an empire anymore. You're an occupation. And occupations always fail eventually. Drexith turned to face the humans, his 6 arms spread wide in a gesture that could have been supplication or threat. What will it take? For this to stop? Name any price. One more time, Kieran said slowly, we don't want your money or your power. We want systemic change. Be specific, Admiral Architect Neth demanded. Your idealism is meaningless without implementation parameters. Nalani activated her tablet. Fine. Here's our proposal. First, the Council Truth Archive becomes fully public, updated in real time, accessible to any species. No more sealed records. No more classified finances. Impossible, Xiphus protested. Security concerns. Second, Nalani continued, all Council members divest from any business entities operating in their jurisdictions. Complete financial transparency. No shell corporations, no subsidiaries, no proxies. You'd destroy the entire economic system. Xiphus's luminescence flared crimson. Third, binding arbitration. Any species can challenge Council decisions in an open forum. The Council cannot be judge, jury, and executioner. There must be checks. This would render the Council powerless, Kellen said flatly. No, Kieran corrected. It would render the Council accountable. That's different. Fourth, Victor added with a grim smile, humanity gets a Council seat. The 4 Council members reacted simultaneously with outrage, but Scholar Prophet Ixathon's tentacles formed a gesture of amused acknowledgement. Ah, there it is. The humans do want power after all. Of course we do, Kieran admitted. We'd be idiots not to. But not power for its own sake. We want a seat at the table so we can ensure these reforms actually happen. Trust but verify. The Council has 5 seats, Drexith said coldly. 5 empires. 5 ancient civilizations that earned their authority through millennia of achievement. Humanity has existed in space for barely a century. You've earned nothing. We've earned this moment, Nalani replied. We exposed a corrupt system. We gave voice to the voiceless. We united hundreds of species that you'd carefully kept divided. I'd say that's an achievement worth recognizing. The displays continued their cascade of data. More worlds going silent, more species joining the growing movement, more cracks forming in the ancient foundations of Council authority. You're asking us to surrender, Kellen said. We're asking you to evolve, Kieran countered. Or become irrelevant. The Council Chamber had been designed to intimidate. Now it felt claustrophobic as 5 of the galaxy's most powerful beings confronted a reality they'd never imagined. Their absolute authority was negotiable. We need time to deliberate, Drexith finally said, his voice carrying the exhaustion of someone watching their world crumble. This conversation is suspended for. No, Kieran interrupted. No more delays. The galaxy is watching right now. You make your choice now in this chamber before every species in the void. You cannot dictate terms to the Council. Kellen's hand rested on her weapon, though even she seemed uncertain about what good it would do. We're not dictating, Nalani said. We're offering a path forward. But every minute you delay, more worlds go silent. More species organize. More of your subjects realize they don't need you. Admiral Architect Neth had been processing data streams, his cybernetic eye moving too rapidly for human perception. Current analysis: 17% of Council tributary worlds have ceased compliance. Projection suggests 50% by end of current cycle. Economic impact calculated at 47 trillion credits. Military response capacity would require deploying 70% of Council fleets simultaneously, logistically impossible and strategically inadvisable. Translation: Victor said, you literally cannot enforce order anymore. You can bomb a few worlds into submission but not hundreds. Not while maintaining your other territorial holdings. You don't have enough ships, enough soldiers, or enough fear. Scholar Prophet Ixathon floated closer to the humans, his tendrils sampling the electromagnetic frequencies around them with obvious curiosity. I have a question for the humans. Let us assume the Council accepts your terms. You gain transparency, accountability, a Council seat. What then? Then we govern together, Kiran replied. We work to fix the systems that allowed this corruption to flourish. We rebuild trust. But humanity is young, Ixathon pressed. Impulsive. Your species still wars among itself. What happens when human passions override human principles? What happens when Earth decides it wants more than one Council seat? What happens when humanity builds its own empire? The question hung in the air. It was the concern every species in the galaxy secretly harbored about humanity, a species that had nearly destroyed itself and might yet destroy others. Kiran took a deep breath. That's a fair question. And I don't have a perfect answer. Maybe humanity will become everything you fear. Maybe we'll abuse our Council seat just like you abused yours. Maybe we'll start our own cycle of corruption and hypocrisy. Then why should we trust you? Xiphus demanded. Because, Nalani said, we're not asking you to trust us. We're building a system where trust isn't necessary. Transparency means you can watch us just like we watched you. Accountability means if we violate the rules, we face consequences. That's the point. These reforms protect you from us as much as they protect everyone else from you. And if that's not enough? Kellen challenged. Then someone else will do to us what we did to you, Victor answered. They'll collect the receipts. They'll expose our hypocrisy. They'll organize resistance. And they'll be right to do it. That's not a flaw in the system, that's the feature. Power has to be challengeable or it becomes tyranny. Drexith laughed, a bitter sound that his translator rendered as grinding gears. You're idealists. Naive children playing at governance. The galaxy is cruel. Chaotic. It requires firm control or everything descends into war. Maybe, Kiran acknowledged. Or maybe the cruelty and chaos come from firm control imposed on species that never consented to it. Maybe the wars happen because empires treat everyone else as resources to be managed rather than people to be respected. Philosophy, Kellen muttered. Pretty words that mean nothing when fleets are burning. They mean everything, Scholar Prophet Ixathon said quietly. All eyes, biological and cybernetic, turned to the Cerulean. I have been analyzing human behavior since they achieved space travel. Their psychology is fascinating. They are simultaneously their own worst enemies and their greatest advocates. They war with each other, yet always reach across divides to help. They destroy their environment, yet fight desperately to save it. They are walking contradictions. Your point? Drexith asked impatiently. My point is that humanity's greatest strength is their awareness of their own flaws. They know they are hypocrites. They know they fail to live up to their ideals. And that knowledge drives them to keep trying. We, the Council, forgot that we could be wrong. Humanity never lets themselves forget. The chamber fell silent except for the ambient hum of failing communication systems overwhelmed by galactic chatter. Finally, Admiral Architect Neth spoke. I have reached a conclusion. The humans' proposal is strategically optimal. Resistance is mathematically unfavorable. I vote to accept their terms. Neth. Drexith's outburst was cut short by Scholar Prophet Ixathon's tendrils forming a gesture of agreement. I also accept. The philosophical implications are too intriguing to resist. Perhaps humanity will teach us to be better than we were. 3 votes remained. The fate of the galactic order balanced on the edge of a decision. Xiphus's bioluminescence flickered through a dozen colors before settling on resigned blue. The Quellan hegemony accepts. Though I suspect we'll all regret this. 2 votes remained. War Master Kellen stood from her throne, her battle armor humming with barely restrained aggression. Her 3 eyes swept across the chamber, past her fellow council members who'd already capitulated, past the humans who'd orchestrated this impossible revolution, to the displays showing her empire fraying at the edges. The Thelmoran ascendancy, she said slowly, each word weighted with centuries of martial pride, has never surrendered. Not to superior force. Not to overwhelming odds. Not to anyone. Victor's hand moved subtly toward his sidearm, though everyone in the chamber knew it would be useless against Kellen's armor. But, Kellen continued, her voice shifting from threat to something unexpected, respect. The Thelmoran warrior code has always recognized one form of victory above all others, the victory that renders further combat unnecessary. Ambassador Moss, you have achieved such a victory. Not through weapons but through words. Not through force but through truth. She made a complex gesture with her arms, a formal Thelmoran salute typically reserved for worthy adversaries on the battlefield. The Thelmoran ascendancy accepts your terms. But know this, human, we will be watching. And if your species proves unworthy of the trust you've demanded, the Thelmoran will be the first to call you to account. Fair enough, Kieran said, returning the gesture awkwardly but sincerely. All eyes turned to Drexith. The High Chancellor sat motionless on his throne, his 6 arms limp, his posture defeated. The weight of 12,000 years of council dominance rested on his next words. I hate you, Drexith finally said, his voice barely above a whisper. I hate everything you represent. Your chaos. Your idealism. Your naive belief that transparency will somehow make governance easier rather than harder. We never said it would be easier, Nalani replied. Just better. Drexith's translator conveyed a sound somewhere between a laugh and a sob. The Vexorian sovereignty accepts. Not because I believe in your vision, but because the alternative is watching my empire burn. Perhaps that makes me a coward. Perhaps history will judge me as the chancellor who destroyed the council's authority. But I choose survival over pride. The chamber's displays flickered, then stabilized. The galactic communication networks, sensing the shift, began to reorganize. Real-time feeds showed the reaction rippling across worlds. Celebrations on some, cautious optimism on others, continued tension on many. This wasn't a happy ending, it was a complicated beginning. Very well, Scholar Prophet Ixathon's tendrils wove through the data streams, already adapting to the new reality. The Council accepts humanity's terms unanimously. Let it be recorded that on this day the Galactic Order changed not through war, but through accountability. Admiral Architect Neth immediately began processing. Implementation will require extensive restructuring. I am calculating optimal timelines for transparency integration, financial audits, and constitutional reforms. Preliminary estimate. Full implementation within 18 standard months. We'll hold you to that, Victor said. Drexith rose from his throne with visible effort. Ambassador Moss, you have your council seat, your transparency, your accountability. I hope you're prepared for what comes next. Governing is far harder than exposing corruption. We know, Kieran admitted. We're going to make mistakes. Probably lots of them. But at least they'll be visible mistakes that people can challenge. One more thing, Nalani said, her voice cutting through the tentative relief filling the chamber. This wasn't just humanity's victory. We're going to propose that the council expand to 9 seats, adding representatives from the Telerii Confederation, the Mirose Unity, and the Fenching Collective. The species who helped make this possible deserve recognition. 9 seats. Xiphus's luminescence flared with surprise. That's democratic, Kieran finished. Or at least more democratic than 5 empires ruling everyone else. We figure if we're rebuilding the system we might as well build it right. War Master Kellen's armor hummed with what might have been amusement. The humans continue to surprise. You gain power and immediately propose to dilute it. Either brilliant strategy or foolish idealism. Time will tell which. Probably both, Victor muttered. Scholar Prophet Ixathon's tendrils formed a pattern of philosophical appreciation. I believe I understand now what makes humanity unique. Other species seek power to dominate. Humanity seeks power to redistribute. They weaponize their own authority. Fascinating. The chamber's gravitational equilibrium shifted as the council, now irrevocably changed, prepared to face its new future. Outside, across a galaxy of 1 trillion voices, species were already organizing, planning, hoping. The receipts humanity had collected weren't just evidence of corruption, they were templates. Blueprints for how any species, no matter how small, could challenge power through documentation, organization, and truth. So, Drexith said wearily, what happens now? Kieran looked at his fellow humans, then back at the council members who just agreed to dismantle their own absolute authority. Now we get to work. We open the Truth Archive. We audit the finances. We listen to grievances from 400 species who've been waiting centuries to be heard. We build something better. It won't be perfect, Nalani added. It won't even be easy, Victor continued. But it will be honest, Kieran finished. And right now that's revolutionary enough. The council chamber's displays began to shift, showing not the void of space but something unprecedented. Live feeds from worlds across the galaxy. Species gathering in public squares. Families watching the broadcast together. Children seeing their parents cry with relief or hope or fear of the unknown. Aliens had empires. That was true. They'd built vast civilizations that spanned stars, accumulated power that could reshape worlds, created systems that endured for millennia. But in the council chamber on this day humans had the final word. And that word was accountability. As the chamber began emptying, council members to face their newly empowered subjects, diplomats to report this impossible outcome to their homeworlds, Kieran allowed himself a moment of exhaustion. 3 years of preparation. 3 hours of confrontation. And now, a lifetime of consequences. Think we did the right thing? Nalani asked quietly. Kieran watched the display showing a galaxy in transformation. Ask me in a few decades. Right now, I'm just glad we're still alive. Victor checked his sidearm, a lifetime of military caution never fully abandoned. The hard part's coming. They'll test us, push boundaries, see if we enforce accountability on ourselves as ruthlessly as we demanded it from them. Then we'd better be ready, Kieran said, because the galaxy is watching. And now, thanks to us, they've learned to keep receipts. The 3 humans left the council chamber together, walking past walls that had witnessed the dissolution of empires and the birth of new orders. Behind them, the ancient seat of galactic power hummed with uncertainty and possibility. Ahead of them the galaxy waited. Not for saviors or conquerors, but for partners willing to do the hardest thing any species can do, hold themselves to the same. Now came the work of making it mean something. Standards they demand of others.